Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Legacy. This is a very new format for me, so you're going to have to bear with me. It's our very first time in doing this. But we are doing a player spotlight series this week. Normally, we do these in text format, but guess what? One of the new things we're going to be doing in 2024 is we are going to be doing these in video format this year. Really getting people a chance to kind of meet and see these players that are make this format so awesome. So with me for my very first video player spotlight series this year is the 2023 North American Eternal Weekend champion, TK Strachan. Hello, TK. It's great to have you here.
Hey everyone, it's nice to see y'all.
So, as we are like to do with these series, obviously, what we want to do is we want to really dig into these players and how they kind of approach Magic, and not only that, like learn a little bit about them and their relationship to Magic, as well as their relationship to Legacy as a format. So, TK, let's start off by talking about how you kind of just got into Magic in general.
So my Magic journey is a little bit weird in a way. I actually didn't get into Magic until 2012, but I was a card game player in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh for
Ah.
many years since inception in the United States. And during my time as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I've kind of developed skills of, what a player should look out for, and I transfer all those skills when I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh into Magic, and then ever since then, I kind of went through like the waves of Magic in terms of like as a competitive player.
Uh-huh.
I started in Standard of Return of Ravnica, best Standard by the way.
I hear that a lot from a lot of people. Yeah.
That iconic. If we could do like a throwback block Standard, I will
Hmm.
100% play that at any event.
I actually
Then
remember playing in that standard, actually. So yeah, I do agree with you there.
So after a couple of years of Standard, I got into Modern when it bloomed for the very first it's I guess resurgence, as you want to say.
Hmm.
Um with Tron and Pod and Twin and everyone.
Right.
So back in 2014, I played those decks, but the deck that I fell in love with and a deck that I actually have a tattoo of it on my chest is Scapeshift.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
and I've been playing Scape Shift exclusively for 7 years and on and off. And that was kind of how I want to say my real beginning start as a competitive player and just meeting so many people, going around different cities. I'm from the Baltimore region, by the way, for folks who don't know.
Hmm.
So I'm very lucky that my friends locally, I'm able to travel along with them and go to these events because honestly, there is sometimes I just couldn't afford it. But that's the one thing about this community is that its willingness for people to come together and just help someone out.
That's awesome. So let's talk about Legacy then. So what drew you, how did you first get started in Legacy, and what kind of drew you to the format in general?
So this was right after Eldrazi Winter, so you can
Uh-huh.
blame that.
I think I hear that a lot from a lot of people that started in Legacy around that period of time. So yeah.
Yeah, so during that time period, I wanted to get into Legacy because at the time I was a junior going to a senior year in college, and and I'm also a judge, now retired, but back then I was a judge,
Hmm.
and I just got these promos, like the Force of Will promo, and a bunch of like high dollar promos that like, you know what? I'm gonna invest into a legacy deck. And so I legitimately went to one of the LGSs. I hand him my foils. It says, "I want this deck. Can you build it?" And the deck that and before that, I played other decks like High Tide, Storm, not much Delver, but the deck that I became the champion of, and the deck that I still to this day will say I'm really am an expert, a subject matter expert, is Maverick.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Maverick is my baby, it's my child. I've That was the deck that I really pulled a lot of my SCG top 16s wins with.
Hmm.
So since 2015, I've been a Maverick player, and throughout time and dealing with problematic formats like since his dividing top and and Ren and Six, and the list can go on and on. But really, I feel that I grew as a person playing Magic. I grew as a player by playing Legacy. And I felt that Legacy awards format knowledge as well as being able to manipulate your deck in whatever tournament you're going to be into. Because that's the benefit of Legacy is that it's so wide vast that you can play whatever deck, and as long as you're having fun, nothing else matters.
This is very true. Yeah, no, you're not wrong there. I know I've played a wide variety of decks in Legacy, and yeah, I've certainly have fun playing, every one of them. So let's talk about Maverick then. So like obviously you said you kind of got drawn to the deck. Like what kind of drew you in with Maverick in specific? Like what about that deck really grabbed you?
Just minusing all like the dual lands and the expensive blue cards, it was between Infect and Maverick, and I put it on a Reddit. Posted on Reddit like, which of these two decks would you prefer for someone getting into? And someone said, Maverick because it's uh, as a scapeshift player, I am a control mid. I am basically a control player, but like to
Mm-hmm.
play mid range. So I wanted to play a mid range deck that didn't require to run underground seas and Volks and Force of Wills, but also still be able to kind of mount. It's like almost like a malleable deck. You can. It's a tool. It's basically a toolbox deck. You can run as many creatures as you need to. But inherently the game plan of Maverick, for those who don't know, it is a aggro prison mid-range deck
Mm-hmm.
utilizing creatures such as Mother of Runes, Thalia, and Knights to disrupt your opponent's game plan and giant win through Knights basically. So I think just because the fact that being able to you don't need to play the most expensive deck in a format to win, but also allow me to see the other perspective of like, okay, I want to play hard mode. I don't have brainstorms. I don't have ponders. I don't have force of wills. How am I
Mm-hmm.
going to win this game?
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. So that's awesome. So you played Legacy for how long then? Up until I know you said you took a big break from
Yeah,
Magic,
yeah,
in general. But I know that so up until last year or whatever
yeah,
is when you stopped playing Legacy for a little while.
yeah. So in 2020, I did a lot. I bought a house.
Uh huh.
I went to Germany for the first time. I started fostering dogs, and at that point in my life, I realized that there are so many other hobbies and interests that I really want to delve into, but I don't have enough time. So I said to myself, I'm going to take a year off of Magic, competitive Magic, and I'm going to explore my other hobbies. And so I did. And I had, oh boy, I'm not going to say what the other hobbies entail because reasons, but 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 the other hobbies have helped me grow in my confidence and as a person. And so, quite honestly, I wasn't expecting to come back to Return Weekend this year. I was expecting to come back the following year.
Hmm.
But what really did me in was that one of my friends that grew up with the game, unfortunately, this was his last event, and so I wanted to see him off.
Right.
Um, so I pulled the trigger. I asked some friends, "Hey, can I borrow these cards? What's the current metagame looking like?" And this is where we lead to the deck that I won with, which was Four Color Catherine.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about so Eternal Weekend. So yeah, as you said, you hadn't played for a while. You showed up with this deck that so Four Color Catherine for the folks at home that aren't fully aware of because it's been a few months. Oh,
Mhm.
it's been about a month or so, at least a month and a half or so at least. And so this deck is kind of like the deck that's playing up the Beanstalk and your Murktide Regents and your Triumph of Saint Catherine, which is the really the signature card of the deck, I think, especially in paper, obviously because that card doesn't exist yet on Magic Online. Uh, so uh, so going into Eternal Weekend, what were your big thoughts on the format first of all? I'm always curious to hear what people's thoughts are on the format.
Don't
Uh,
don't face initiative. Do not ever face initiative. Run away as far away from initiative as possible. Dodge combo and just have fun. I said one of the things I've done before we get to like the heavy technical, um, every round after round two, I left the room to get air because it was
that's a
so
yeah.
important. It's so important to get that fresh air because you're going to be in the hall for 12 hours.
Hmm.
And also just being able to, and also just keep reminding myself that, you know, winning a secondary, having fun is mandatory, and that's just allow me to just be comfortable and confident and just take like the I want to say like the pressure off
Hmm.
because I was just there just to have fun. I didn't expect to win, but here we are.
Yeah, I do really recall one that weekend. One of the big stories around you that weekend was that you received a game loss in a game, and they people were watching you, and it was just like he was just so calm receiving this game loss, and then proceeded to go on and win. And it's just like, oh man, yeah, that's awesome advice. Honestly, I really think that's great. That advice of decompressing, taking the time to yeah, have time to yourself after each round. Definitely makes a lot of sense. So that's cool. So Eternal Weekend itself, you're in the midst of this event. At what point did you really think maybe I'm winning this? Like this is real. Like was it not real until after they handed you the pancake?
uh,
I hear that a lot
oh,
from people. So yeah.
oh my God. Okay. All right. I want to say the first thought of maybe I can win this was I when I won on camera my winning end.
Hmm.
That moment, I it it was like a delay. It's like, when you're streaming, you're doing
Right.
something, and then there's that lag that's coming behind you. Like, I realized I won my winning end, but the weight of it didn't hit me yet until much later. But, you know, after I won and they said my name in the top eight, I'm like, oh, okay, this is real now. Like, let's get game on. And then I want to say after I beat Cass, who was on Cradle Control,
Right.
was when I had the second thought of, it's like you can win this. This is a possible. Like the door is like wide open now. It's just like you can't ignore this now.
Right.
You can go through this door if the cards play right. And um after uh well, game one, when people saw on stream of me against the finals as Jay, I thought I was gonna lose that game. I had no I but
That was a very 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 wildly interesting game.
it was
From my
it's
perspective watching it, it was pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah, and but then after that match, when they said my name, that I am now the Legacy champion, it hit me and I was proud of it. But again, there's that delay of like the emotional
Hmm.
part of it. Didn't hit until after I got home and just like seeing all these tears, like just oh my God, it was. I by the way, here's some advice. If you win Eternal Weekend or any big tournament, do not go to work the next day. Take the day off. You are not doing anything that day. You are in La La Land for days.
Yeah,
Just do yourself a favor. Self care is important.
that is very true. Honestly, yeah, I think that's true no matter what happens in a tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you take that day and go, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely hear you there. So this deck that you played, I've got it pulled up in my phone here. So I'm just looking at it again. So obviously, like this is the new hotness right now with Legacy. These up the beanstalk. Your well not Yorion, but like these up the beanstalk Murktide Regent Orcish
Hmm.
Bowmasters decks.
Hmm.
And so how did you feel about this deck? Like when you first kind of like picked it up, and start like playing around with it. Obviously, this is a really hard deck to test with in paper, just simply because there's cards that don't exist on Magic Online. So that honestly can affect your testing a little bit as well. So, what was your first impressions of the deck and when you picked it up and started playing around with it?
So I first saw this deck from a MTG Final Legacy Challenge finalist, my good friend Matt Book,
Hmm.
and he posted a list, and I took that list and I showed it to my competitive Legacy players in the Baltimore region. It's like, let's talk about it. Let's develop this. Let's see where this goes.
Hmm.
And so I had other responsibilities to do, but my friends who went to Eternal Weekend in Europe, they've been modifying the lists and then they've been cultivating the list. So it's really those players who really kind of spent the time and energy in testing and getting the analysis of like why we're running this card over this card.
Right.
And so I want to say 2 weeks before Eternal Weekend, when I was able to come back to test, that was when they kind of debriefed me on everything that they've been going through, and I just kind of picked things up because one of the things my friends have told me about approaching this deck, and it worked just for me and only for me. I'm a mid range player, and this deck plays like a mid range deck. It
Hmm.
may look like a control deck, but it plays like a mid range deck. And so I was able to keep that perspective throughout the entire tournament. And that is another reason why I won.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like, and this is something to kind of point out that we always kind of point out about legacy in general is that this community of people that surrounds us in legacy, that's just I think that more or less they also enabled a lot of your ability to approach this tournament and win this tournament because it, we can't get anywhere without people behind us, and I think that really is something that's super awesome. So shout out to your Baltimore legacy community, man. That's fantastic. They sound like a lot of really awesome people out there. So
Yeah, as we're talking, they're in the Discord right now talking about there's a 5K Legacy tournament tomorrow.
they hit the ground running. They are not wasting any time.
And it's just like I told them, it's like, guys, I gotta roll out real quick. Just I'll jump back in when I'm done. But no, that's just how we do things, and it really honestly, it wherever we go, like it could be at a bar, it could be a local game store, hell, it could be at a restaurant. Like I remember, like after day one of Eternal Weekend, we're at Texas Roadhouse, and like all of my friends who play the same deck, we all huddled together, grabbed some napkins and a pen, and start writing out the sideboard guide.
Yeah, that's dedication right there, man. That's something. So looking ahead a little bit, what does 2024 look like for TK? Like what are you gonna follow up with this year? Are you gonna do anything else, or are you gonna take another break, or
Well, I will say that my duelist spirit, as you say from Yu-Gi-Oh jargon, has been reignited. So there's a lot of stuff I want to do this year, and one of the things that I want to start there's a lot of things I want to start bringing back that used to be really popular, but obviously because of just time, money, investment, it kind of just faded away. One of those things is back in 2017, 2018, me and a couple of my friends ran a legacy league, the Baltimore
Okay.
Legacy League, and it's to promote players to play legacy because we both know it's legacy is cost prohibitive. You know, it's $700 to buy a single cardboard that you need four of. So not
Right.
everyone has $2,800 to drop immediately.
Right.
So the goal of that league is to bring people make players play Legacy via proxies or play testing cards, and at the end of the season we would throw an invitational, and the winners of the invitational can get Legacy cards like a Force of Will, a
Right.
C, a Volk, cards that are normally too hard to grab by yourself. But it was essentially a community driven uh tournament series.
Right.
So now that I've learned the goods and the bads, I want to bring that energy back into my community, and the goal is that um to have more of these local events because I've been listening to other podcasts like Everyday Eternal, and one of the things that I want to echo what they said is that there's not like uh, there's a gap between like the local scene and a regional scene,
Right.
like so it's kind of like how do you bridge that gap?
Right. That's actually really super awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. So definitely keep me in the loop of what's going on with your local scenes because I'm curious. I am. I always like hearing about Paper Legacy. I'm always looking forward to talking about Paper Legacy.
Hmm.
So it's always awesome to hear from. Before we start wrapping up, let's talk a little bit about you in general. Like, so tell us a little bit about more about TK the person, not just TK the Magic player. Like, what do you do for a living? Do you, you know?
Where's my glass of champagne? I'm just kidding.
Ah,
So for me, I'm in the Baltimore. I'm in the Baltimore region. When I'm not playing Magic, I go hiking. I like hiking a lot.
okay.
I like to just go to parks and just kind of see things around. Another things I do, well, most of the time that I dedicate is community service in the LGBTQ IA. In that I go to different events and help support and just creating a safe space for people who may not feel comfortable being themselves and making a space that they can be themselves. And one of the things is that in that community, and I'll try to make this as PG as possible. Um, I am I am what's called a title holder, which is that sash that you saw around
Yeah,
my body at the finals, and that is to denote that I am essentially a representative in that community, in the leather community specifically. So whenever you see me at like a leather event, I am there to create a safe space for that event.
that's super awesome. It's really cool. So, well, like I said, I think just keeping this short and sweet was great. TK, I want to thank you for joining us this week. And we'll be looking out more forward to you in 2024 just to see what you come up with. Where online can people get in touch with you if they want to ask you questions about this deck or if they want to, just follow you in social media or anything like that?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I am Triumph of TK, short and simple. So that's where you can find me on all my platforms in terms of just Magic roller coasters. In terms of and that's also where I'm posting my updates for the primer and Patreon stuff. So yeah,
So,
I
oh,
have a I have a Motor account, but I really don't play Motor as much.
so I assume that once you get this primer, like your Patreon up and running, you'll
Yeah,
be able to get that over to us, and we can add that somewhere as well. Make sure that we mention it at least somewhere in the articles in the future. So.
yep.
So awesome. So all right. Well, again, thank you everybody for taking some of your time out of your day to watch our first ever video player spotlight series. We're going to do more of these in 2024. I'm hopeful that every one of them I do in 2024 is going to be a video. We'll see how that goes, but I think it's pretty good. So again, thank you TK for joining us, and we'll see
Thank
everybody next
you.
time.
Bye.